All right, picture this for a second. You're the most powerful person on the planet. Literally, every single decision you make can ripple across the globe. We're talking shifting markets, altering alliances, impacting millions of lives. Because the stakes are just so incredibly high, there is this glaring cinematic spotlight placed on absolutely every aspect of your existence, especially your physical and mental health. So every year, the commander-in-chief takes this highly publicized, albeit short, journey from the White House over to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Cameras flash, the public collectively holds its breath, and a detailed medical report gets released to the world. But beneath all this modern spectacle, there's a really fascinating tension. Okay, let's dive into this. Is the presidential physical actually a medical necessity, or is it just a massive PR exercise? Are we, the public, really getting a transparent look into the health of our leader, or are we just watching a highly choreographed, expertly graded public relations stunt designed to project absolute power? The answer is, well, it's incredibly complex, it's deeply historical, and it perfectly illustrates the high-stakes theater of American politics. Here is our agenda for today's explainer. 1. Medical exam or PR. 2. Hiding health before TV. 3. Projecting vigor and power. 4. The age of hyperscrutiny. And 5. Privacy versus national security. Section 1. Medical exam or PR. Let's actually start by looking at how the modern presidency handles the immediate aftermath of that Walter Reed trip. Because the second the president steps out of that hospital, the political messaging goes into overdrive. So following his annual medical checkup, when he was 81 years old, making him the oldest president in U.S. history, a reporter asked Joe Biden if there were any concerning health issues the American public should know about. His response? Well, they think I look too young. It's a joke, obviously, but it is doing some serious heavy lifting. Presidents actively use these moments to shape public perception. They project confidence and creatively deflect from underlying concerns about their fitness. It is literally a masterclass in narrative control. But what do the actual experts think about these reports? Dr. Jacob Appel, he's a medical ethicist and a presidential health historian at Mount Sinai Hospital, and he offers a pretty stark warning. He basically says, if I were the public, I would ignore that information entirely. Why? Because as he points out, the president can simply cherry pick what looks good and totally bury what doesn't. We're essentially handed an illusion of transparency. It's a document that looks incredibly official, very scientific, but it's ultimately a curated piece of political marketing. Section 2. Hiding health before TV. To really wrap our heads around how we got to this highly managed modern spectacle, we kind of have to look backwards, back to a time when presidential health was kept strictly in the dark. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a massive stroke that left him largely incapacitated. And the severity? Entirely covered up. It effectively left his wife to make executive decisions for over a year. Fast forward to 1945, President Franklin D. Roosevelt lived with paralysis from polio, yet the White House successfully downplayed his use of a wheelchair all the way up until his death in office. It actually wasn't until the 1960s, under Lyndon B. Johnson, which was right after the trauma of JFK's assassination and during peak Cold War paranoia, that the results of a regular physical were formally announced to the public. And this modern era of full disclosure, that really kicks off in 1976, when Gerald Ford actually insisted on making his info public. Section 3. Projecting vigor and power. So you might be wondering, why the sudden shift? Why go from hiding literally everything in the shadows to suddenly publishing medical stats for the whole world to see? Well, according to political historian Dr. Matt Dallek, Americans have historically wanted vigorous, masculine presidents. And during the Cold War, the physical exam shifted. It became a tool to outwardly demonstrate vitality and project political power. Take Gerald Ford back in 1976. Against the direct objections of his own doctor, Ford insisted on releasing his data. I feel fit as a fiddle, he told the media, making sure to casually drop the fact that he swam every single day to stay in shape. The medical report wasn't just a health update anymore, it was armor. It was a broadcast to the world, and especially to foreign adversaries, that the American leader was physically unstoppable. And this desire to project strength, it evolved into a really fascinating modern tactic, releasing totally mundane details to build trust. During Bill Clinton's checkups in the late 90s, the White House actually announced doctors removed a precancerous skin lesion from his nose. In 1997, they announced he was recommended hearing aids. So why release such hyper-specific, maybe even slightly embarrassing, but ultimately minor ailments? Well, because in a hypercharged partisan environment, admitting to a harmless skin lesion creates this powerful facade of total transparency. It makes the public feel like, wow, we're getting the unfiltered truth, which totally distracts from the fact that the release is still entirely voluntary and completely curated. Section 4. The Age of Hyper-Scrutiny. That brings us to today. The rules of the game have fundamentally changed, and it's driven by one inescapable demographic reality of our recent commanders-in-chief, 78 and 82. Following a string of relatively young presidents, Clinton, Bush, Obama, the U.S. elected two of its oldest presidents in quick succession. Donald Trump was 78 when he took office for his second term. Joe Biden entered the White House at 78 and left at 82. Dr. Dallek notes that this unprecedented shift has just turbocharged public interest in these medical reports. The scrutiny we see right now operates on a completely different plane. And the data proves just how deep this anxiety actually runs. Take a look at this Washington Post ABC Ipsos poll regarding Donald Trump, which was conducted before his latest checkup. 59% of respondents did not believe he had the mental acuity to serve. 55% did not believe his physical health was sufficient. A totally separate Economist YouGov poll echoed those exact same concerns, showing nearly half of Americans felt he was too old. And look, this isn't just partisan bickering, right? This is a broad statistical reality of public anxiety. The electorate is incredibly tense, heavily scrutinizing every slip of the tongue, every slow walk down a ramp, and every single physical release. So, in response to that massive public doubt, the White House deploys the exact PR tactic we talked about earlier: a total barrage of hyper-specific, curated data. Trump's physician released his height to the exact inch, his exact weight, a resting heart rate of 73 beats per minute, and a flawless blood pressure of 105/71. The doctor even went out of his way to meticulously explain away a bruised hand seen in photographs, calling it mere soft tissue irritation related to frequent handshaking, while simultaneously highlighting his lifelong abstinence from alcohol and tobacco. And the immediate political spin? Trump posted on Truth Social that everything checked out perfectly. It is the ultimate collision: intense public skepticism met with a perfectly tailored wall of medical data. Section 5. Privacy versus national security. As we peel back all these layers of PR and political spin, we arrive at the absolute core of this issue. It's a profound ethical climax that literally pits the American voter against the harsh realities of global geopolitics. On one hand, you have the public's right to know. I mean, we are handing the nuclear codes to one human being, so it feels entirely justified to demand medical assurance of their fitness, right? But on the exact opposite side, you have severe national security risks. As Dr. Apple points out, anything released to the American public is instantly downloaded, translated, and analyzed by the Russian Secret Service, the Chinese government, and other foreign adversaries. If a president truly has a debilitating weakness, broadcasting it to the world could directly endanger the entire country. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. Despite the dramatic news coverage, the breathless analysis of walking speeds, and the endless demands for cognitive tests, the President of the United States actually has the exact same legal, medical privacy rights as every other American citizen. There's absolutely no constitutional or legal requirement for the president to share a single page of their medical records with the public. Every stat, every memo, every perfect health declaration, it's all a 100% voluntary choice. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly difficult question to ponder. In an age of hyper-scrutiny, global threats, and perfectly curated political PR, where exactly should we draw the line between a leader's fundamental right to medical privacy and the public's absolute demand for fitness? When the stakes are literally the survival of the free world, is privacy a right we can still afford, or is transparency just an illusion we willingly buy into? Thank you so much for watching this explainer. Keep questioning the narrative, and I'll see you in the next one.